So it's snowing again, which I have not good feelings towards. So I'm doing a video instead of paying attention to the window. Kind of wanted to talk about patterns in the sense that I don't actually use them hardly at all anymore. A lot of the ones you find in stores don't really fit a lot of projects I want to make. Either I have to start from scratch and figure it out myself on the dress form, or they're inaccurate and not historically correct and stuff, and like seam placement where they wouldn't be. My first couple sewing projects, I relied really heavily on patterns, and so a lot of my earlier projects aren't actually all that correct. Just because I don't use them doesn't mean I don't have a ton, because I like to buy them. I don't know why. So, the very first pattern I ever bought was, where did it go? I swear these are organized. This was the first ever pattern. I've never used it. I'm pretty sure it's all still in its original folds. Bought it because I wanted to be an elf for Halloween, and then didn't know the first thing about sewing. I was 12, so yeah, it's all still original folds and everything. Never been opened. And lately I have started buying books of patterns instead when I started doing Victorian costuming, because all of the quote-unquote Victorian patterns I could find were frankly kind of shit. I did made this skirt, and I mostly made the jacket, and I was still not as experienced in choosing fabrics back then, and I picked way too thick for the jacket and lining, so it was really hard to turn all of the little tiny tucks and corners out. So it never got finished, it never got hemmed, and some of the instructions were unclear. But in terms of like medieval clothing and patterns, this is the one I made first. Well, no, okay. This is the one I made first. These are basically historically correct period patterns. It didn't fit great, and I don't know if that was my measuring or my mom's measuring, since actually she helped me mostly with that. Problem with these patterns is this was $18.50 to purchase, and you can't find this in Joann's. We made I'm pretty sure we made view 1, and then we didn't do the cuffs. And that was one of the other issues that with the pattern was the sleeves were way too short. And we wound up having to add a modesty panel to the back because it didn't, I think we probably cut out a size smaller than we should have. So yeah, that was the first time I made a Tudor period kirtle, and I liked it, but it was wool and scratchy, and so the next time we sewed anything was this McCall's pattern. For a kirtle and surcoat. The surcoat pattern in here is fine. It's hard to screw up the surcoat, but the dress has princess seams, which are that fitted bodice look, which is lovely in modern clothing, but wasn't really in use back then. So that was the second time we tried making medieval clothing. Actually, I have two with this pattern, two surcoats, two kirtles. And they're nice, they're lovely. And the fact that I wear them with surcoats basically covers the incorrect seams, so I wear them anyway. I think garb purists would probably get pissy. The family we first started going to SCA events with would probably get pissy, but I don't care. What I've started doing instead lately is using books like these, which have beautiful full color photographs as well as pattern layouts. Problem, of course, being that they're tiny and you have to know how to scale them up to yourself. And frankly, I'm not very good at that. I hate math, and so actually scaling them up correctly, like using numbers, I don't like to do that. I am, however, pretty good at eyeballing my own size in relation to the fabric, so usually I just sort of do my own layout and figure out the pieces and trim where needed. I like them though because they give you all of the piece shapes that you need and construction details. The Victorian patterns are a lot more complicated though, so I haven't made any out of those books yet. I have Voices of Fashion and there's another 2 or 3, I can't remember the titles. Those ones I would probably have my friend help me with the scaling up because she's actually good at that sort of thing. However, what I did do when I wanted to create this dress, and I still haven't made it in my own size yet, I did make it in miniature so that I had a better idea of the shape for all of the pieces and how they fit together. And they're modeled here by Claire. If you're not familiar with the pattern, I actually really like the idea of doing it to scale for somebody smaller than yourself because you waste less fabric. This was all done with scrap fabric. So these are sleeves. And the kirtle. And in historical clothing, you often would find detachable sleeves, especially from this period, because it let you use nice or fancy fabric where it would show. And then you would basically wear a dress over top of it. And then the fancy fabric would show, and everyone would go, wow, look how luxurious the fabric on her sleeves. When actually, your underdress just kind of looks like this. Also, I think the first thing I tried doing underarm gussets for was the white underdress and smock, because most modern patterns have shaped sleeves instead, which is where you get nice fit and still have full arm mobility. But back then, they were more likely to do gussets. So, some sexy lingerie on this teddy bear here. I screwed up on one of the arm. This is the arm I did correctly. You can see how it fits together right here. And the tunic dresses I've been doing all have the same sort of underarm. This one I screwed it up somehow, and I don't even know how, but don't look at that arm. And this one I actually hemmed the neckline and sleeves, and I don't think I did on any of the hems on the red dress. But so basically this was like this. And obviously these are not the same size as each other, although they're not far off. But what it let me do is figure out how to cut all of the pieces out and how they fit together. So I got familiar with the pattern without wasting all of my fabric and screwing it up on a size for me. Plus, if you've got younger siblings or children, they can have some very stylish medieval clothes for their toys. I started sewing for my American Girl dolls. So all of my toys had Hogwarts robes. Let me just put that out there for you. This one, I used nice white thread so you can see where all of the seams are really easily. And they're really, really simple still, even though this is a later time period. They're all basically rectangle pieces, square pieces. And I had read that hook and eyes were pretty much period anyway, maybe not exactly this style because these are clearly store-bought. But yeah, that's what I've been doing for patterns the last year or two. And no, actually probably since about 2010, 2011 is when I really started figuring out how to draft my own stuff. And that's coincidentally right when I got my dress form. I think the most complicated thing I've drafted was a Sailor Pluto costume, and that just had a lot of little bits and pieces that, frankly, most of these historical costumes don't have. These are simpler by far until you get into the embroidery and the details in the later period. That can get a little bit complicated, but it's not a matter of sewing at that point. It's a matter of finishing, which I hate. I hate finishing touches. I'd rather just call them all good. I have so many things that still need to be hemmed because I hate hemming. On the other hand, embroidery, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be really, really simple, and it makes an outfit look way better than just leaving plain, simple hems. So I've decided to do as much basic clothing as possible, and I can embroider it later or add trim later, anything like that, just to try and get the bulk of the clothing done. We bought new fabric, and I've got a chopped up bed sheet ready to be turned into another tunic, and hopefully that all goes well because I think I've got like 15 weeks left. I'm guessing on that, so don't quote me. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know. Patterns, ooh, I don't like them.